So I've been putting up some short videos, 3 minutes, 1 minute, 15 seconds or whatever. And I just got done putting up a video where I'm actually putting the spinner on this plug. And let me see if I can get to the search here. And that way, if you have comments, I can see them come in. There's no way to actually do this beforehand, since it's live. I gotta wait for it to come up live so I can find it. See if I can find my own videos. That way I can look at the comments without looking at the phone here. Basically, I'm doing the live stream. So it looks distorted on the screen, but we'll see how it comes out. Let me flip it around here, see if I can. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, I guess. See if I can get away from some of this distortion. Let's see here. Okay, that looks a little better. Looks like we're in a bike shop, doesn't it? You know, somebody mentioned to me about live streaming and photos and everything. And it was one of these things where, yeah, it can be done, but you get all these little glitches. So I have no idea why that camera came up distorted. It could have been, couldn't focus on the what I was doing because of the dust in the shop, who knows. So it is what it is. We're going to wing it. So what you're looking at here, this is Steve Barry's Genesis 35 reimagined. It was an airplane from Bob Hunt, original design. And Steve went in there and made changes. And he talked to Bob a lot. So they sort of collaborated on what the changes can be, or what would work, and bring it up to date. And it piqued my interest. So here we are. So it's reimagined in a lot of ways. And then here I am carbon on it, which will imagine it again because there'll be my interpretation. This is going to be a plug. Obviously you can tell it's a fuselage, but what's going to happen once this foam, the tooling board foam, and don't ask me what the number is because I'm not really sure, but this tooling board foam, once I get the shape I want, and then I'll actually take it and then I'll put some auto primer on it, maybe a 1/2 ounce glass cloth, seal it up, epoxy, and then I'll put some pre-cat automotive primer on it. And what that'll do is give me a good surface finish. So this is porous. You can't pull a plug off of the porous foam. You got to finish it. The beauty of this foam is you can use lacquer primer. It doesn't melt the foam, whatever it is. So that's a really neat feature of this stuff. So once you massage this thing to perfection, and then you finish it, and then pull a mold off of it. Now there's other videos I've done if you're new to the craziness here that actually show me making a fuse mold for an RC. This is 80 grit, I think. No, it's 100, which is good enough for this foam. Now I've got a center line going down on this plug, so I got a reference. The nose of this plug has got about a 1.5 to 2 degree offset. The trick is, at this stage, you got to start eyeballing it from all angles because you don't want to actually get a flat spot in it. So when you roll the paper like that, you can eliminate flat spots. And this foam disappears so fast. You got to be careful, you know, it doesn't take much. So what we're trying to accomplish here is make it look like the spinner is blending in perfectly to this fuselage. You want this line from all different angles, top, side, or whatever, to converge on that spinner. So that's what we're trying to do. You don't want any humps or bumps. Now I got 2 plugs going. I got this one plus one of my own designs. One of them over there, you'll see in the shorts, it's a tooling board, like 40-40, 40-60 or something of that nature. So I don't sand it to final shape with the 100 grit. I'll sneak up on it. I'll come back and I'll keep getting finer grit as I go. Eyeball it. The beauty of this whole process is once you get the plug made, you can make countless molds. And also, once you get the mold made, when you start laying up the glass and the core material, you can vary it. So you can have more strength up here, you can put more material here, less back there, you know, depending on what you think it needs. There's a good channel. If you're new to this stuff, I recommend Joe Daly, D-A-L-Y. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's actually laying up. He's got a pictorial slideshow of him doing a fuse mold. And then he shows himself laying up the parts. Chris Cox has also got some neat stuff out there on his process of his Hellcat. I recommend you searching that if you're into composites. Now, Chris had a mishap with one of these planes, which was unfortunate, but the nice thing about the whole thing is he's got the molds to make another one. So that's a good thing. Now, to give you an idea how easy this stuff sands, or carves, I'll show you here. It's pretty fine grain, but you're able to go through here and peel it away. It's a pretty simple fuselage. Now with this design, I chose to go with the dorsal fin built into the mold, since it's pretty unique. So you can see back here, this area here is extended down, and this, but there's dorsal fins that. So I had two options. I had the option of just making it straight and then glue the dorsal fin on afterwards, or I can mold it in. But what I'm going to do, normally you get the radius and then you get a real razor thin fin. I'm thinking of making the plug so it starts out really sharp and it goes down at a gradual angle and just goes into the fuselage, so you have a perfect fillet between the fuselage all the way up in the dorsal fin. If it gets screwed up or whatever, I just sand it all off and we'll go to plan B, but I'm going to try it, see how much I can get in there and make it look right. The other thing I'm going to try to accomplish on this fuselage plug is I'm going to try to keep the sides from being flat. What I want is a high point here. I want it to curve. I don't want it to be flat in any place. So I see how I can maintain the nice curvature of this fuselage. If you get rid of the flat sides, it looks better, in my opinion, personally. And it also adds rigidity to the structure. And then if you can actually do the doodad thing, what they call them, you know, like little bump outs or streaky looking little designs, that'll add strength to the composite fuselage. And I've talked about this idea before, is making a composite wing, and then the whole composite wing would look like an I-beam, because you build an I-beam and then you pull a mold off the I-beam. Sounds crazy, but I can't help but wonder if those little vortex generators on the wings maybe became more of a necessity when they got rid of the I-beams. Stop and think about it. When you put all those half ribs in a wing on I-beam, you know, they're sort of like vortex generators in a way. I mean, maybe not as pronounced, but maybe that was an effect of an I-beam, and they were getting a benefit they didn't realize they were getting. So you never want to get rid of your line if you can. Try to maintain the line there. guys really look at the shark real close. But if you look at Rusty's airplane at the tail and the back, you can see the curvature in the airfoil on the vertical stab, how it's not symmetrical, it's aerodynamic. You never see it unless you look real close. So I don't see any comments on the TV, so I'm not even sure if I have the comments turned on. Let me see here. You guys might be chatting, I might not see it. So no guarantees, huh? So you can go so far, and eventually you got to get rid of the block and change the shape. You know, when I get up here on this dorsal fin, there's going to have to be some changes. I might have to make some custom sanding blocks to get into some of these shapes. The other thing that really helps, if you can get back and look at this thing from the distance, if you can set it down on your bench and stare at it critically. The other thing I try not to do when I get done sanding here is get up and walk around. I'm covered with dust. Now the beauty of this is I've got an outline I'm trying to maintain, but I'm not actually trying to make it precise. I'm going with what my eye feels is pleasing to me. The other thing you got to be careful of is if you're predominant right or left, and you always sand with right or left, which I'm doing my right, it's easy to get it to where it's not symmetrical because you're sanding different from one angle to the next. Now this spinner on here, it's a badass spinner. He sells them, and they're pretty widely available. And being a little electric job, I wanted to go with a really lightweight spinner, and I wanted to put something on there that you can actually readily get. It's accessible, so it's not really the needle nose thing, but I wanted something that you could actually source out. You know, if you buy some plans and everything on the plans has to be sourced out, it's sort of tough. The other thing is, if you're just building one of these things, you're better off, you know, you don't want to go through all this trouble for a plug. You're better off just, you know, doing the balsa wood fuse. Now, the advantage of the plug is, obviously, I mean, I can make more than one fuse. and I can change the construction of it. So now when it comes time to actually sand the tooling board and shape it, it's got to be done on a bandsaw to get it roughed out even more than what I got it. And I'll be using power tools like a router with a cut saw bit, be a carbide burr bit on a quarter shaft. That way I can actually peel the material away like that, especially in areas that are compound like this. And then when it comes to flats, it'll be perma-grit. So there'll be a lot of different tools used on it. And then maybe flats also, if you want to sneak up on it, would be a razor plane. So, they're very therapeutic, sitting there carving this stuff. Now, if you didn't have this foam, this tooling foam, whatever it is, you could use EPS blue foam. I was at a composite shop where they just did CNC routing for tools. And they had a pallet with this back in their storage unit. And they wanted to know if I wanted it. And you know the obvious answer to that. And it was something that had been sitting there 10, 15 years that they weren't going to use. And it's something that works out perfect for the hobbyist. So I took it, and it had a number on it, okay, that was on the side. I think I wrote it down somewhere. But I couldn't get that number to correspond with anything that was available now. So some of this Ren board that I mentioned in the shorts, 40, 60, 40, 40 or whatever, some of these companies get bought out and they no longer carry the same numbers. And I was trying to find some mold release wax sealer. It used to be Lily Industrial Coatings or something, and then I couldn't find it. Of course, they're out of business and they sold out to somebody else. And there's a cross-reference of the new formula, the new number. So finding some of this stuff, it's like a crapshoot, you know. You're looking for one thing, it's really another. What I like to do though, when I get these things carved and sanded and I think it's right, I set it down and I come back the next day and look at it with a set of fresh eyes. And you wouldn't believe how many times you pick up something that you miss. Your nose is so buried in the project, you're not looking at it critically, I guess. Now this was a glue-on. This board only came in this length, and I had to add that to it. So I took the HTR 250 with some micro balloons and pigment, and I added it. And the reason why the pigment's in there is I think I glued something else together with the same glue, but I just decided to glue this on. This will be interesting to see how this dorsal fin works out. See how much rigidity I can get in this little puppy. Hey Steve. Yeah, hope you like it. As you see, Steve, I'm getting off track of the wing. I'm on the fuse, but I got the wings figured out. You know, I'm having fun with this little thing. Bob Hunt was over one day, and I got this kit up there. It's of his Genesis. I don't know if it's 40, I think it's 40 size Genesis. Maybe it's the same airplane, 35. It's a pretty crude kit. It's almost a short kit. I had him sign the box. But always wanted to build one of these. So here we are. Put this thing together. So in order to get this blend, you know, with the dorsal fin, I got this perma-grit on a dowel. So this thing is going to be TLAR. That looks about right. One of the things, I hope it comes a real popular, yeah, you're right, Steve. If it's, you know, somebody, you know, like Wesley coming up, and, you know, he doesn't need a big Hammer 60. Something like this would be the perfect size airplane for the juniors, seniors maybe. The other thing, if somebody produces in a short kit to where you buy the fuse, you buy the foam wings, and you got to put it all together. I'm not sure how many components you can get away with, but have to look into that. But it might expose people to a composite airplane on a cheap scale that might not otherwise mess with composites if they'd have a short kit. And you just sell them 2 ounces of resin or whatever, so they can glue the composite parts together. They wouldn't have to source that out. Once I get it pretty close, I mean, obviously this thing's got a taper in all directions, but I'll go with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that everything is straight, symmetrical. And if it's not symmetrical, you know, it'll be there for a reason. Another thing I'm toying around with is how to do the parting line when you make this in the mold. Kit would imagine that by far the most expensive. Well, I'll tell you what. We were looking at resin the other day online. Robert and I were. The resin isn't too bad. To give you an idea, they were looking at a source for some resin. It was resin infusion, and it was anywhere from $90 to $200 a gallon. And I sort of chuckled. I said, "Yeah, if you want to get it for the $90 price a gallon, you got to buy a 55-gallon drum. There's a catch to it." And you know, the $200 gallon is 1 gallon. So with resin services, everybody says, "Why do you talk about them?" They've been really good to me. I mean, with technical help and a really good product. A good example, after Robert got the price of 90 to 200 or 300 a gallon, he called up Resin Services and he said, "Yeah, we'll sell you a quart of the resin. Will do what you want. $53 for the whole kit." Well, it'll take him a long time to go through the quart for what he wants to do. So that's going to last him, and he's only got a $53 outlay. Well, that's $212 a gallon, but he's only got to outlay $53. And the other thing is say, well, that's a lot of money per gallon, but so if you'd save money for a gallon, and then if stuff goes bad, it's like buying mayonnaise. You don't need a 5-gallon pail of it because it'll go bad. So you got to look at it like that too. So most modelers can go with a quart of resin, and for hobby use, it'll last them maybe forever, you know, for what they're doing with it. So Resin Services will work with you. And I was talking to Tony at JT, and when you start looking at spec sheets and resin, well, you can go, oh, there's maybe at least dozens, just keep the resin manufacturers that sell all different types of stuff. And he said, well, basically, once you find something that works for you, and it falls within the parameters you want, you know, stick with it. It saves a lot of confusion. Because technically, if you look at a spec sheet on these resins, you know, if you'd have to run tests from brand A to brand B, you wouldn't find any difference. They're all good at that commercial level, I mean. So when I buy resin, it's like, how available is it, what quantities, the price, and then also, what's the spec sheet say? And believe it or not, Steve, the cost isn't the material, the resin. The cost is the time involved. I remember talking to a guy in a cabinet shop when I was in there making a delivery years ago. It's called Richie Lou, and all they did is sold cabinet hardware. Anything you need to build cabinets. Screw guns, screws, guns, nails, everything. And I was talking to him about people that do this kind of stuff, that build cabinets, or a handyman and construction working, he said it's easy to figure out the cost of materials. You know, you can just add it all up and figure it out on paper. What gets you isn't the cost of materials, it's how long is it going to take to actually, you know, put it together. And that's, to make money into anything, that's the art form. Figuring out how long it's going to take, and sometimes the only way to know is have experience doing it. So, sort of a close-up here of what I'm working myself into. You can see here, so I get it to come up, watching the TV, and also, okay, so it's showing up a little bit. Okay, you can see this hump here. So what I'm trying to do is continue on with the fuselage sides down here, and then blend it into the dorsal. So you're going to see this get tapered down more and more, so there's a nice beautiful blend and fillet. And I'm going to try to maintain a high point out here so there's no flats. And I'll just keep working this down to where the flats start disappearing. Thing here, carving some of this away. I'm not sure exactly how narrow it needs to be back here. Steve's showing a pretty tight tail post. Talking to Kenny Stevens with his stiletto. Thicker than an 1/8 inch or 3/16. Yeah. Well, it'll be 1/8 or 3/16 right up at the top, right here. But from the 1/8 inch at the top, which was what's on the plans, instead of coming straight down like a piece of wood, it's going to be the 1/8 inch at the top, and it's going to have a gradual taper to the bottom. So with the built-up plane, it would be 1/8 inch or 3/16 sheet with a fillet. But I'm just going to take it from the top of an 1/8 inch and then just widen it out a little bit where it just blends right into the fuse side. That's the intention anyway, Steve. So you reimagine this airplane, and I'm going to reimagine your reimagine. So when I get done with the sanding block, people can still build the plans. I mean, I think the plans are excellent, but you know, if you want one of these, which I'm not offering them, but maybe down the road, but yeah, it's just my interpretation of the shape. Now, this, Steve, this outline is to your plans. Everything is going to be to the plans. But you know what? If you have 5 Noblers and they're all sitting at Tucson or whatever for the vintage thing, you have to have the outline and you have to have whatever the rules say. But then if you look at each one, yeah, blend together. Monocoque structure, that's what I'm after. 5 Noblers, and none of them will be exactly. Somebody will round a corner a little bit, or, you know, that's just the nature of the beast, and that's what makes them all unique and interesting. So Yeah, the other thing, Steve, talking about convex and concave curves and shape, it makes a composite rigid. And I use this analogy all the time, probably too much, but 55-gallon drum, when they run the beads around it, it's got two beads and they stick out maybe a half inch. They're rolled into that. That's what gives that 55-gallon drum strength. Just those two beads, they roll into it. What I was saying earlier, grills in your mount. Oh, gills. Yeah. Well, I was talking earlier about Kenny Stevens and his stiletto. I don't know if I finished it. I got off track, but I think he had a slider horn. I want enough room back here, you know, to where you got a horn that's not too cramped up, and also rigidity. Kenny Stevens worked really close with, I think it's Walter Unlin on that stiletto kit. I'm not sure if you meant gills, this here. If you're looking at, I see your comment. Oh, Robert, I'm sorry. Hey, Robert. These, talking about gills, basically this right here is where I glued another block onto this. This wasn't long enough. So this line is going away. So still a lot of carving to do. Now, even though this is all wonky here, I'm still going off this center line. You know, at this stage, you could almost airfoil a whole fuselage. Okay, so, and I think they did that on the Shark in some respects. So, since you have control of this whole thing, you can almost have it to where aerodynamically it all looks, or it looks the same, but aerodynamically it'll, you know, give you line tension. I don't have a wind tunnel, but I can appreciate the process. And I'll tell you though, the fuselage you might be able to get a little air. Let me start making. Yeah, slip through the foam, yikes, yeah. Don't worry, Steve. 65 years old and I haven't sliced myself yet. But I forgot what I was going to say. You know, I've had people tell me, they call me and after watching the video and say, you know, what are you doing? You know, why are you using a sanding block like that or whatever? It's like, well, to me, I don't know, it just, I don't think anything of it. I've been doing it so long, it just feels natural, but I guess I know where this knife is at, even though it looks like it's gonna nail me, but it's not. But I can see how it looks scary. Yeah, the whole fuselage would be a lifting body. That's something I might think about before I get to the final shape. Thing is, once you get it there, it's like, yeah, there's no going back. It's in the mold. But, you know, probably worth doing. You got any warm weather up there, Robert? I know it's taking forever to warm up. I think I was cutting grass here and you're still shoveling snow or something. Rain, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we haven't had any rain in the last couple weeks, really. I mean, the gnats were good. We had a couple sprinkles, but this spring was really wet. Heck, it was raining 2 or 3 times a week at least. Yeah, 3 feet. That's huge. We used to go to Minnesota and fish a lot, and of course they're all glacier lakes. Gosh, there's a lot of good fish up there. So as you can see, you know, starting to get some form to it. "15 feet, wow. Yeah, just so it doesn't get into your house. So this is where I'm at. It'll take a lot of work, but that'll be nice. And of course, the only way to get this here is with a round dowel, like right here. The other thing you can do, it seemed like if I have the ability, I like to come around the spinner and I like to shrink it in so it's concave, like right in here, maybe just a little, and then come out, and that gives you a little shape up here. You know, when it comes time to put an electric motor in here, it's going to be front mounted, but I'll have to figure out exactly where the mount is for the motor. It's on the plans, but get that made. Now, one of the neat things, okay, with a composite airplane, let's just say this is a finished plug, okay? So you make a mold, and you're pulling fiberglass parts or whatever out of the mold. What you can do is go back to the plug, and then you can make a splash mold. So you got a whole mold, okay, which is the 2 halves on the bottom. Motor, yeah, secondary cowl. I'm thinking here, Steve, is coming from the top, and I'll have to look. I might have to call you and talk about it, but I might be able to get it all from the top if you have a hatch here, okay? Let's see what we're going to say. Basically, Yeah, one of these is going to have a landing gear on the fuse, the one I'm going to build for myself. But also on top, under the canopy. Okay, that's on the plans too. So basically you'd make a splash mold like right here, okay? And inside that secondary mold is where you lay up your hatch. And it's hard to describe if you can't visualize it, but when you, let's just say you lay up some fiberglass, and then in the mold you put some plastic down and you lay up some more fiberglass on that plastic. And then when you demold it, the part comes out, but then the secondary piece you just molded comes out because it was on that plastic release film. Okay, so now you got two parts. You got your fuselage here, and then you got whatever you just secondary laid up inside. So when you cut your hatch out here, you take that secondary piece you molded inside on the original, and you glue it up in there, and that creates your little flange all the way around. Of course, then you have to cut out the center. So that way you're actually laying up two parts. One of your part, your secondary piece, is the inside flange, which will be cut out and glued. Can't take that inside on the original. Inside on the original, can't take. I'm not sure what you mean, Robert. The bomber, it was all balsa wood, okay? I looked at that airplane at the Nats, and nobody knew how he got into the nose, but the fit of the nose of the B-17 was so tight you couldn't even see it. And then it was disguised by a ink line. So people don't realize there's so much engineering went into that. Mark was in. Yeah. It was neat stuff. I never got to see the original fly with the IC motors. So there's going to be some engineering on this thing. I don't know. As far as the mold halves going together, traditionally they do left and right side. And by watching them, it's sort of cantankerous because you're putting these sides together and trying to keep everything straight. I'll visit this and see if I could get a parting line from top to bottom. So maybe down a datum line or the thrust line would be the parting line. So when you make the top and bottom of the fuselage, let's say this is the side of the fuselage, and it's coming together like this, you'd have to have a little flange there on each one. So when the top went on the bottom, you'd have a flange to glue the two pieces together. What that would allow you to do is, and I've got to have a video to explain it, but you jig up the whole airplane on the glass, so you'd have your wing halves, your stab, and everything would be aligned on these fixtures. Once everything is aligned and perfectly parallel on the trailing edges, 90 degrees to the thrust line, whatever you got to do, it would be sitting in the bottom of the fuselage, which you'd actually glue in there. So that way, when everything's aligned, you have access to your horns, you have access to your push rods and get everything. And the last thing you do, you drop the top on and glue that on. So it would allow you an easy way to lay everything up, and then the last step would be the top. So I don't know, I'm thinking about how to do that. I know how to do it, but would it be viable? So you hear the sirens go off. That's That means it's 11 o'clock in Indianapolis. They run those things at 11 o'clock. And that's just a test for tornado sirens. So if you got a storm going, it's 3 in the morning, you hear the siren, you know to check out the TV, see what's coming. Now, sanding these things, once you get close, okay, you can see some flat spots. Once you get it really close, you're almost just going with the weight of the sanding bar. It's real easy to get heavy-handed and start putting flats. You can get heavy-handed to begin with, but right down to the end, like right here, you just want to barely push down and just let the sandpaper do the work. And keep the bar rotating. Lunchtime. Yeah, sort of sounds like that. Yeah. Don't talk about lunch, I'm already hungry. My wife took off and she's visiting some family. And it's usually when I run down to grocery and get a steak. Yeah, lunchtime. So, yeah, that'll give you a pretty good idea what I got going. I'm not going to do the whole thing on the stream all day to do this, but I'll get off here in a little bit and I'll finish this up offline. The other thing you got to remember when you're sanding this thing, normally you have a certain shape. You got to remember there's going to be a canopy painted on here, so you want it to be really nice and rounded, no flats on it, because you got to have a canopy painted. When this is all said and done, I think it's going to fly great. I think it's the simplicity of this airplane. A lot of people are going to like it. So one of the things I'm going to show you, okay, this is church bells. Yeah, it's a nice sound. When I get done sanding this thing and I auto body it and primer it and polish it up, and then it's time to make a mold. I'll show you what an RC mold is real quick for the people that maybe haven't seen it. I'll show you. I'll be right back here. So this here is it's an RC plane. It's like a sweep stick configuration as far as the dimensions. Okay, that's a high temp mold. This goo on it. Needs to be cleaned up, but it's a high temp mold, and this is what it looks like. So same type of thing. You're going to have, you know, an impression. This is a female part of it, and you can see where the plug transferred, little 1 ounce weave, and there's a little hole out here in the mold. You can see like a size of a pea that I need to fill back up with more of this resin. It's right here. There's a little bad spot, and that's sort of par for the course. Basically, you just clean the bad spot out. It was created by the tooling coat, which is the black. So when you get stuff like this, it's easy to fix. It's like filling a cavity. Next time I mix up this resin, I'll go through there and I'll fix these little spots out, fix them up. The other thing you can do with this surface coat is you can block sand it, wet sand it, and then buff it out. On the original plug, it got a little wavy in places, so I block sanded and buffed it, and it came out. If you have enough tooling coat in there to do that. And on the back side, it's just a bunch of dough. You can see it's built up from this surface with the surface coat, and then some really light cloth with tooling dough, and then on top of the tooling dough there's more cloth. And the flange actually adds rigidity. By running this flange out here, it keeps the mold from warping or twisting. If you have a really big mold or something you think that might get wonky on you, you can actually run, you know, like an egg crate structure through here. The only thing you have to be careful of, if your mold surface is below this here, which is the fuse, I can't remember the rule of thumb, but you want this to stand off like 1/8 of an inch, and you put tooling dough. So you don't want to put a hard piece right up next to it, because what will happen, it'll print through and you'll see that line in the mold. So you try to put the structure in there, but put some dough and glass below it so that hard edge is sort of flared out. But you know, with this thing, I wasn't really sure, but this is overkill, but it worked out good. And the tooling dough just allows you to build up a thickness with less glass to get the rigidity. So this is not my best effort, but when I get that plug for the Genesis, it'll be a better mold. But I'm glad the stream worked out. It started out bad. I couldn't figure out why the camera was skewed. I think I had dust on the lens or something. I got to maintain the high point out here, get a nice shape to it. Thanks for coming by, and thanks for watching. Remember, just a hobby, make a lot of dust, and life is good. Use your lawnmower. yeah, sometimes I use that lawnmower as a seat over there just to sit down. I'll see you guys later. Bye, Robert. Nice chatting with you.